I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's now 5:45 in the afternoon. I'd like to call the Monday, September 24th, 2012 special call meeting to order. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Faircloth McCormick.
Here.
Councilman Maldonado.
Here.
Councilman Shelley.
Here.
Councilwoman Woolman.
Here.
Councilman Williams absent. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Here.
Mayor Bateman absent.
Yeah, we're trying to reach Councilman Williams on the telephone also, and we think maybe the mayor is stuck in traffic. We're unable to get a hold of him, but since everybody's here, we've decided as a quorum to go ahead and start the meeting. So, Mr. Attorney, if we can get the order of business, please.
The special call item is a discussion on options to address City Hall contamination findings.
Do I need a motion?
No.
Okay. Now we have the staff report, Mr. Manager.
Okay, thank you. My apologies, yet another one of these presentations. I don't typically do so many presentations, but between the CIP, the budget, and now this issue, and also I know there's going to be a lot of information on this screen, but I thought it was important since there's so much information before you, pages and pages, reports after report. I thought it was important to take the main pieces of these reports so that you all and the public have an opportunity to see what we're dealing with here. Where are we here? Basically, this thing all started with concerns from the employees' health issues. And we heard over and over again from employees about this is a sick building, people having concerns about just typically how they feel when they're in this building. Some of you have also mentioned just a general sense of what's happening. So as we heard more and more about this, what we decided to do was to hire an environmental consultant to look at the building to try to understand what's actually happening inside the building. So the first consultant that we hired was EE&G IAQ Services, LLC. Now these people have been in business for 25 years. Their specialty is in mold inspections, mold removal, asbestos inspection and removal, and indoor air quality reports. And they've done a lot of projects over the years. The most notable project that they did was the response team for their World Trade Center recovery project at the Fresh Kills landfill. They've also done some work for us in the past. So what we asked them to do is look at the building and find out what's going on. And we'll get to some of their findings, but I just wanted to kind of list for you the roster of experts that we had here, because once we received a report from this firm, and it's included in your packet, we wanted a second opinion. And we thought that's important because the first firm mentioned that there's going to be some remediation that's going to be required. So because of the magnitude of the situation, the dollars and the health issues that were involved, we really wanted to get a second opinion. So we hired another firm by the name of EnviroTeam North America. They've been in business for almost 40 years, and they have extensive expertise, certified indoor environmentalists, state of Florida certified mold assessors, EPA, AHERA certified building inspectors, and the Florida licensed radon measurement specialists. And we asked them, after the first report, to go through the building top to bottom and tell us what they find in there, just so that we could confirm and also make sure that if we're going to mitigate, we do it the right way. And so their reports are in your packet as well. And then finally, from that report, we have a third expert. These are the people, these are construction consultants. These are people that, for, I guess, almost 20 years, their job is to go into contaminated structures and to remediate them. They actually do the work, whereas the consultants more have the expertise to identify what's wrong. These folks actually do the construction. So we wanted to know from them is get a third opinion, which was what is it going to take to fix the problems in the building and to give us some cost estimates and some time frames. So those are our first opinion, second opinion, and third opinion. A battery of experts, because each of the firm brought with them personnel who have various expertise in the various arts or sciences. Okay, so what are the immediate problems with the current City Hall that need to be addressed? And we've broken this down into three categories. Problem number one is the City Hall is contaminated with radon gas. This is a fact. We know this, and For those who are not familiar with radon, what is radon? Radon is a colorless, odorless, radioactive gas that forms naturally from the decay of radioactive elements such as uranium. Now, it's important to know that radon is everywhere. It comes from the ground. Like everything else on this planet that decays, it creates a gas, and it bubbles up out of the ground. And this graphic here, which came from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, this kind of shows how radon seeps in and why it becomes a problem. In essence, if your structure has cracks, there's intrusion into the building, the radon, as it's bubbling up out of the soil, finds a way to sneak into the structure, and if not properly ventilated, will accumulate and your numbers will go up. Now, what does that really mean? Well, first to kind of get a perspective on radon and how we measure radon. Radon is measured in a format called picocuries per liter. And that's a way to measure how much radiation is in the air. And because I mentioned radon is everywhere, so that must mean we're breathing it wherever we go. And that's true, depending on whether there's radon, depending on where radon accumulates. Well, in the outside, the EPA basically has said that normally, if you're out in the outside air, the normal average measurement is 0.4 picocuries per liter. Now also, like our structure, the radon is bubbling up out of the surface, it's coming through, and it sneaks into buildings all over the world. Well, the average indoor radon level, if you tested every building, on average, it would measure 1.3 picocuries per liter. What the EPA then says is, as your numbers start creeping up, what happens is, once you reach the level of 4.0, that's a number where we should really start thinking about doing something, or what they refer to as the recommended action level. And that's a specific term that they use for people to really do something about radon. So 4.0. Now, why do these numbers are relevant beyond trying to assess what normal is and what's abnormal? The EPA also says that anything above 4, you should really retest again if you've done tests. And also, if you're double 4 or more, you should test immediately. So the first test series of tests that we did, we got our report August 1st. And there were 7 locations that were tested. And of those tests, the highest number we got was 8.8, more than double the recommended action level. So from there, we followed the EPA's recommendations, which is to retest immediately. But this time we did something different. Because we've had what we think is probably meets the definition of sick building syndrome, which is a certain percentage of the employees who feel there's something wrong with the building. We really wanted to test every space in the building just to give everybody a comfort level or a discomfort level, depending on what the results were, of what's actually happening in their space. So instead of 7 locations, the second series of tests were 60 locations. And of those 60 samples that were taken, 56 out of the 60 samples showed that they were above the recommended action level. So they were above the 4.0, with the highest measurement at 8.9 picocuries per liter. So what we have is test results number 1, we're above. Test results number 2, we're above. And oh, by the way, this is the second consultant because, this is the second consultant we hired because the first consultant hadn't tested for radon. But the second consultant did, and because we only had 1 series of tests, we wanted to do a second one just to make sure. Health effects of radon. This is an important thing because everybody wants to know, geez, why haven't we evacuated the building? What's going on? And what is radon? And the truth of the matter is, radon, there's a long history of science on this, and what science tells us is that radon causes lung cancer. That's all. In fact, that's all it does. It does one thing and one thing only. It causes lung cancer. And in fact, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. And also what's interesting is that for non-smokers, radon is the #1 cause of lung cancer. And also, what we learned is that about annually, 21,000 people die of radon-induced lung cancer. The chart to the right shows, in comparison, well, what's 21,000 people? Well, about almost 3,000 people die from home fires, about 4,000 die from drownings, about 8,000, 9,000 falls in homes, and 17,400 from drunk driving. So more people die from radon-induced lung cancer than do from drunk driving. Now, that's the next question as it raises is, okay, well, that sounds really bad. Why are you still in the building? Well, it's pretty simple. What we know so far is, we know that it causes lung cancer, but we don't know how much of it you have to breathe in order to get lung cancer, and how long you have to breathe it. So how high does it have to be, and how long do you have to breathe it? And the scientists look at this in terms of decades, as they look at the actuarial impact to have breathing in this gas. It's sort of the same question you would ask about how many cigarettes do you have to smoke, and how long do you have to be smoking in order to get lung cancer? We can't really answer that as well. But we do know that the more you smoke, the more risk is involved with potentially triggering a disease. So that's what we know about radon in terms of their health effects. And we know that every day that you're breathing radon, you're increasing your risk. We just don't know how many days you have to breathe it in order to potentially get sick. That's radon. Problem number 2 is City Hall is contaminated with mold. Now, I'm going to go back to this photo because this is an actual photo from City Hall. And you can see the mold is accumulating by the air duct. And we all know mold is everywhere, and mold is as old as time. The question, though, is, why do we have mold? What the consultants found is the same problem with the radon, what's causing the radon to get in the building, same reason we have mold, which is, in this case, it's intrusion. It's cracks in the buildings, it's spaces where water gets through, which creates mold-like conditions. What they found was visible water damage and fungal contamination observed on ceilings, walls, floor tiles, storage boxes, interior furnishings. Suspect mold growth observed in many locations in the building. And what does mold do? The same dynamic with the radon applies to mold. You could be exposed to mold for years and years and years and have no health impact. On the other hand, you could be exposed to mold and have serious issues. It depends on the individual, it depends on the contact, it depends on the type of mold. And just so everybody, just to make sure that we don't run out of here running for our lives, we're not saying that the mold in this building is this science fiction type mold that on contact we're all going to disappear or be vaporized. This is typical mold that you see, but in much higher concentrations and throughout the building. And so as we hear employees saying, geez, sometimes my allergies act up, sometimes I don't feel good when I'm in the building, it could be, and we don't know, we don't have proof, but it could be that some of these that you see here, toxic effects, infections, asthmas, allergic reactions, that could be one consequence of mold. And again, it's one of those things where the scientists, doctors, nobody has definite proof, but they know for one thing is certain, contact with mold is not a good thing. Problem number 3 is City Hall is contaminated with asbestos. Now, I'd say this. The asbestos that we're talking about, if you want to know where it is, just look up at the ceiling. What you're looking up at the ceiling now is asbestos is in that popcorn ceiling. Now, why is it that we can be in this room? Well, because this is the type of asbestos where the scientists tell us that as long as you don't displace it, it's okay, it's contained. But if you start messing around with it and it starts to get into the air, then you have to do something about it. So if your plan is to take this asbestos and do something in here, whether it's to take out some of the walls or to do anything that will disrupt it, then you've got to get rid of it. Why is asbestos an issue? Well, We know asbestos is a pretty serious thing if you breathe it in. Lung cancer, asbestosis, mesothelioma, so a form of lung cancer specifically caused by asbestos. And so that's the asbestos problem. I'd like to take you on a visual tour of City Hall, starting with the roof. And as we talked about intrusion, why is it that we have these conditions? Is because water's getting in. Well, here is a photo of bubbled roof membrane demonstrating water beneath. These are actual photos taken in July. Plants growing from the roof membrane to flashing connection. Cracks in the stucco. Water stains at upper column demonstrating water intrusion into roof system. Cracks in the facade near the roof flashing. Compromised sealant at frame to wall connection. Compromised sealant at frame to wall connection. Water stains and visible suspect mold growth adjacent to the air grate. Water damaged wallboard and carpeting, and water stain at the base of the window. In fact, we found this in one of your offices, but we didn't want to. We wanted to see if anybody recognized whose office was water damaged wallboard at base of exterior window. Visible suspect mold growth behind compromised vinyl wall covering. Visible suspect mold growth near supply at air grill. Visible debris and/or mold growth on interior of supply duct. Visible suspect mold growth behind vinyl-type wall covering. Now, this is one of the problems we've discussed before. We have mounds and mounds and mounds of public documents in our basement that have suffered through flooding and through all kinds of conditions. In fact, the temperature downstairs is like a freezer down there because the staff has been trying to keep the mold growth to a minimum by keeping the temperature cold. But you can see some photos of the documents and the fungal contamination on some of the file boxes. And part of the problem is, once we received this report, we had to lock the doors in the basement to make sure staff doesn't come in. But meanwhile, we've had numerous public information requests for some of these documents, so we're trying to balance the requirements of law for access to documents with the health concerns of our employees. Visible suspect mold growth on file cabinet. Visible water damage and fungal contaminated ceiling tiles. Suspect mold growth on wallboard at supply air. So that kind of concludes our tour. What it tells us is the roof is exposed, the fascia, the skin of the building is exposed, the windows are exposed, the air duct is exposed, the walls are exposed, the carpet and flooring is exposed, and the basement is virtually unusable. Plan of action. And I'm going to read this sentence, both sentences, because I think they're important sentences for everybody to hear. And that is, City Hall personnel and departments need to be relocated in order to minimize and to mitigate any further exposure of employees and the general public to a potentially dangerous environment. And I think that's where we stop and we say, that's the moral imperative. That is the medical imperative. That is the scientific imperative. That is the right thing to do. We can't have employees here breathing in radon, breathing in mold. It's just not the right thing to do. And so what staff is requesting authorization from this council is for us to have negotiate lease arrangements for the relocation of personnel and operations to temporary accommodations. We visited several sites, office sites, potential office sites, one office building, a couple of shopping plazas. Maybe there's others out there. But should you direct us tonight, we'll start a formal process of looking at these sites, getting some final quotes, and coming back to you within a week or two with what we believe is the best option for the city. And so we'd need your recommendation. Now I'm going to go back to this screen at the conclusion of the report, because I will need some direction one way or the other on these negotiations. But I'd like to also talk about the long-term questions here as well, because we know what the short-term issue is. We have health considerations that we need to address. But the longer question, but not too long-term, is what do we do then? Because if we know we're moving out, what are we going to do then? Well, option number one is to fix the current City Hall. And if this is your choice, why it's important for us...
She's trying to reach Councilman Williams.
Should I hold? Or?
No, continue on, please.
Why it's important for us to get a decision relatively soon is if we're in rented office space and your intent is to fix this building, the longer we wait on making this decision, every month that goes by is just another month that we're paying rent. So if we're going to end up coming back to this building, the sooner we make this decision, the better, so that we can at least start the process. And what is it that has to be done?
And
Well,
just a note, Councilman Williams is now on the phone.
okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
So part of the scope of the work would involve containment of the basement area, document removal, disposal, gypsum board and vinyl wall covering removal, removal of fungal contaminated wood, removal of ceiling panels, removal of carpet, replacement and decontamination of air handling units and associated conveyance systems, entire basement area to be vacuumed and cleaned, and exterior envelope of the building to be sealed and coated. Replacement and proper sealing of the exterior windows, roof membrane cover to be removed and replaced, basement exterior wall to be treated and sealed. And basically, what our contractor, our remediation expert told us is that he believes it's going to cost us roughly $2 million to do those repairs, and it will take about a year to do, and they don't believe that us staying in this building is an option while they're doing that remediation. Option number two, build a new City Hall. And basically, I know there's a long history on should we build a new City Hall, and I'm going to try not to get too embroiled into that other than to say this is obviously a second option, and the idea is to consolidate as many of the city operations as possible into one site. And why is that important? And why is it important to consider building as opposed to investing more money into this building? Well, this building was built in 1959, 53 years old. And the time it was built for a population of 9,152 people. Now, of course, we have 60,000 people that we service here in the city. And at the time they built this building, where they had 9,152 people, they built a building that included using the basement for operations, which represents about 25% of the building, which we've abandoned. We don't use it anymore other than to store documents. So you have a building that's 53 years old, that was built for a population that was a sixth the size, and also we don't use 25% of the building that they built to accommodate 9,000 people. Finally, this building is not compliant with hurricane-resistant structure standards. So as you're thinking about, geez, should we invest the $2 million to fix this building, we thought these were important considerations for you as well. Additionally, I'd like to go one step further and just raise these as potential decision points. Assuming you say, yes, we think it's a better idea to build City Hall, at some point we're going to need some direction on where's the location going to be. Is it going to be this site? Is it going to be the Washington Avenue site? Is it going to be some other site that you'd like to consider? We're going to need to know that, obviously, so we can understand what path we're taking administratively. The other thing is to consider the potential sale and development of this current site if you decide the City Hall won't be here but be at another location. This land is a large tract of land. It has tremendous value. Last we saw $8.5 million based on the 2010 assessment. And then also, what other policy considerations are there for building a new City Hall beyond just housing your staff? We have heard over the years, we've heard a new City Hall would have a tremendous halo effect on the downtown. Many believe that the downtown needs revitalization efforts, and putting your employees in the downtown could have a tremendous halo effect on the area. Also, job creation issues, and also, assuming you want to build a new City Hall, assuming you've decided where the location is going to be, the next question is, what do you want to build? Now, we know that in 2009, there was a plan that was at 100% construction drawings. About $1 million were spent on the plans. The plans were bid, and bids were received. And we know that about $6.7 million was spent on that. So that's one piece of this. The question is, are you happy with those plans, or do you want to start with a completely new process where this redesign, this kind of restart the whole process? And or do you want to create some sort of a formal, informal proposal process where sort of like a beauty contest, people come in and they present their ideas for how you should build the city hall. So, and then finally, a procurement process. Will we have a formalized bidding process? Will it be an RFP process, an RFQ process? So these are the things that we're going to need to start talking about, assuming you go down that other path of let's build a new city hall. But for the time being, I'm going to go back to the original question, the staff would like authorization to start negotiations for office space, and we need some direction for that. And then also, questions and comments.
Well, thank you. That was very thorough. One question. Those pictures were taken by the experts that came here independently, correct?
Correct, Enviro team.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shelley, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I guess procedurally, how we want us to answer this question first? Do you want us to answer all questions? What type of direction do you want, and what type of methodology?
Why don't we take them one at a time?
Okay.
And work on the first one first, and then we'll go to the second one. And to the public, we will have public comments, so if there's anybody, we're going to limit it to, depending on how many people, 2 or 3 minutes, depending on how many people, but we will have public comments. So if you're going to have a comment, please just wait, and we'll get there, just to let you know. Thank you.
And so the first question, the first direction you're looking for is, one, authorization to evacuate the building, to get the employees out, and to authorize you to negotiate or look into other spots to house our employees while we're making whatever additional decisions we make,
Can you go back so
correct?
the question is up there for us, please? Thank you.
We're asking for authorization to negotiate lease arrangements for the relocation of personnel and operations to temporary accommodations.
And I get that authorization. I know we had this meeting, we discussed some of these issues prior, and I know the authorization that I proposed at that time or gave was to do whatever is necessary for the health and safety of our employees and to get them out of this building, out of the sick building, and into another location, and so that we can continue city operations. So that would be my authorization for this question.
So he's in favor. Ms. Fairclough McCormick.
Okay, where do I start?
Well, let's answer the
If I,
question.
right.
And
I
then we'll
was
go from there.
concerned before I walked in here, but after the presentation and just reading through some of the information more, I have deep-seated concerns, and I can in good conscience look this staff in the face and knowing that the decision that I make can be potentially. I hear radon up to at least 8.9 picocuries, mold, high concentrations of it, asbestos that can potentially lead to mesothelioma and lung cancer. So to me, there is a sense of urgency. And I definitely move forward with authorizing you to proceed with moving our staff from this building into another safe building because of the negative impact that it can have on their health. So I say, let's move forward.
Councilwoman Waldman.
Well, when you say where do you begin, I began 12 years ago. And the first thing that I want to say is thank you very much to Manager Gretzis, because I know I've been begging for years to check the building. And until you stepped up to the plate, and you were very courageous to do that, very courageous, and I want all of you to know if it hadn't been for this man right here, we'd still be saying, oh, it's a sick building. Oh, well, it could be a sick building, but it is a sick building. So I'm going to take it a step further. I mean, I want all of you out of here now. And I said that the last time we talked about this, last meeting. I want you out now. And so, of course, I authorize that, but I mean, I don't know if there's possibility of taking turns and some working from home a couple of days, or, you know, I don't know, but I want you out, and I want you out as soon as possible. And I'm so grateful to you, because I've been sick for a long time with my allergies just keep getting worse. I just had pneumonia in July, and double pneumonia. So, you know, it's terrible. And I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight too, because I tried to get the word out to people. And Michelle, all of you, thank you so much for coming out, Maria, and all of you, because it's your building too, and you come in here and you do business here. So I want you out too. So, thank you.
Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you. I'd have to echo some of the sentiments of all this council. You know, just the word cancer obviously hurts, you know, on a personal note. And having gone through the experience of, you know, losing someone to cancer, it's something that's very disturbing. So on a personal note, I would agree with Judy when I say immediately. Once we heard that the tests were beginning, and once we first found out of some of the contamination, I was already on board to make sure that this staff that's working here, that's here on a daily basis, gets immediate, you know, we need to do something right away. It's their health, and our health is everything to us. It's all we have. We have family, children, and it's all affected. So I also agree with authorization of this staff moving forward and negotiating a lease agreement to move immediately. Now, what I would like to do is make sure, and because you did mention that we're going to be looking at other potential locations, and what I'd like to say is that wherever we plan on moving, make sure that obviously it has no health concerns, because I know there are some old buildings within the city that might be ideal, but at the same time, please take that into consideration that we're not moving from one sick building to the next. I know that there's some new locations around town, and there are some old ones, but and so I'm a little concerned with the older ones to make sure that those are adequate enough to hold our staff on a temporary basis. So that's it for me right now.
Well, thank you. I mean, I will echo and be a fifth, definitely. We need to get our employees to a safe environment. One, for their comfort, and two, for their safety. I mean, it's not fair to make them come in and feel the uncomforts every day of an unknown. As you said, it's you can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't feel it, but it could be affecting you. So I think as we go forward, I think that the opinion of all five of us here, we don't have Councilman Williams on the phone, do we? We do? Okay. I'm sure that he'll voice with the majority, but at least we've got 5 votes, and I say make sure that we find a safe place, a place that we can get our employees to as soon as possible, and that we move forward from there on this question. Councilman Williams?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to say anything? Right now, we're talking about staff is requesting the authorization to negotiate the lease arrangement for
Well, I've been on the line. I just got on the line not too long ago, so I kind of missed, I guess, about 30 minutes of the presentation. But from what I have heard, it sounds like that we really will be paying a lot more money and trying to perhaps update the facility, but even then, we will still have problems. Is that not right? Is that not what I heard in some format?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the options that we have available is to, of course, number one, build a new city hall, which there were plans already underway. So I really don't have any other comment than just making sure that I was on the call to hear what the recommendations were. And I've heard just a little bit of my colleagues. I'm not sure who's all at the meeting from the dais, but from what I've heard from, I think, my colleagues, I'll have to do a little bit more thinking on it.
I'd like to make a motion if I could.
Because you're looking for direction tonight, George? Is that what I'm understanding? Or are you just updating us where where we are today? Maybe that's another question that perhaps.
Councilman Williams, it's Vice Mayor Burgess. We're looking for, right now, the question that we're concerned with and working on is, are you in favor of moving the personnel, relocating them to a temporary accommodations? And are you in favor, and what we're looking for is, are you in favor of moving to a temporary accommodations for the employees? That's what we're working on right now. And then we're going to continue on to the relocation possibly, or what our plan is next. Right now, the first question we're working on is the temporary accommodations. The 5 of us that are here have all said yes, definitely we need to look at that, and have given direction to the manager to start, although we have not voted on it yet.
Okay, but have we looked at where we would move them for the accommodation?
There have been, I think that the manager has more for that, I think, that he has been in contact with certain people, but the exact location to this date has not been determined or chosen.
Okay, well then I'm definitely in favor of that, getting the employees out of that situation.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna. I'd like to make any comments, Mr. Shelley.
Yeah, just for clarification, going forward, and I think we're about to make a motion, or I'll make the motion or second the motion if Vice Mayor Burgess just made the motion to give you authorization, but what's our time frame so that we make sure that we do this quickly and efficiently and try to find the best location we can, but to get the employees out of the building, again, as quickly as possible?
Most of the groundwork has already been done, so my hope would be within a week, 2 weeks at the latest, we come back to you with a proposed lease.
Okay, so we'll have another special call meeting or workshop meeting and make that decision at that time, hopefully with some choices?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Councilwoman Waldman.
I just wanted to add to my authorization that wherever we go, that it be a permanent temporary, so that we're not moving around, so that we have a permanent place to stay until we go elsewhere.
Yes, and that's the intent, and because of that, and because of the locations, whatever locations, the problem with searching for locations, we needed a space that was large enough to house everyone from this building, and also most of the spaces that we looked at, that we found that were large enough, none of them really had fit-out space. So the first issue is going to be the cost of the lease, and the second thing is the cost of the actual renovations, and that also will drive the question of, are we there for 1 year while we fix the building, or are we there for 2 or 3 years while we build a new city hall? So that's also going to be an important factor in our negotiation. So if you don't make that decision tonight, we're going to negotiate the lease with 2 options, basically a 1 year and a multi-year option.
Thank you.
Councilman
Just for numbers, how many employees are we talking about?
We're dealing with roughly 10,000 feet, and Vivian, how many employees would you say? We had somewhere around 30 some odd offices that would have needed to be fit out, and also total employees with mayor and council.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Attorney, can you accept that I made the motion and Mr. Shelley seconded it, or we need something more formal?
You can make a motion.
Okay. I would make a motion that we give the manager direction and authorization to negotiate an operation, to move personnel and operations to a temporary accommodations. And moved and seconded. I'd now like to go to the public before we take a vote here. Is there any public comment? When you come up, please just state your name and address for the record.
And are we limiting the public comment to just this decision, or are we going to open it up?
And
Everybody's afraid to come up. I'm William Tebow.
yeah, and Mr. Tebow, if you could, just on what we're working on right now. Just
Exactly.
Thank you.
William Tebow, 2835 Fairways Drive. I want to commend the manager for finally getting to the core of the problem. I've watched Judy sick for 12 years, and they give soldiers bulletproof vests. They did that because they knew they were going to get shot. This has been proposed, a sick building, for as long as I can remember, and it's just taken too long. And I applaud your action tonight in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Hearing none, seeing none, and I'll close the public comment. Any last comments from the council? Madam Clerk, call the roll on this question, please.
Councilman Maldonado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Woolman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough McCormick.
Yes.
Councilman Shelley.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. We'll continue on to our next.
The question I would have for you is, did you want to discuss and the options 1 and 2, fixing the building versus building a new city hall? And if the answer is you want to consider building a new city hall, then we could go right down the list.
Well, I think while we've got everybody here, us tonight, we're here on it, let's at least discuss the fixing, and then we'll go from there. If the majority says whatever, you know, whatever they determine, and we need to take the next step, then we can do that. Thank you. Can you just give us the facts again of the money, the time?
Okay, basically, option number 1, fix the current city hall. And the list, the scope of the work literally is to go from top to bottom and to seal the building and to remove all the contamination. That will involve the radon, ceiling and ventilation. It will involve removing all the walls, carpets, sealing every crack in the building, the inside, the outside, and the ventilation system, the whole building, basically. And that will, we expect, take about 1 year, and somewhere in the vicinity of $2 million. Obviously, the final cost would depend on a formal bidding process. So we take that scope of work, we would do the bid process and see what comes of that. But we expect both the construction people and the consultants both agreed that we're talking around a $2 million figure.
Thank you. I'm going to, well, first, I'd like to hear some public comment on this first, and then we'll come back with ours if the council would allow me to do that, and just kind of see. So, yes, state your name and address.
Robert Barnes, architect. This is in reference just to this building, right? I'm also here as president of Main Street, but I'm only going to talk as an architect. I have 34 years experience, not counting my time at Georgia Tech, where I have a degree in architecture and multidisciplinary certificate in energy environmental studies, and a degree from University of Miami. It's my common knowledge on a project like this that they mushroom. And I'm not sure, George, if you've taken into consideration, but when you get to a building and you're spending $2 million on a building of this size, it's very possible you're going to kick in the Florida building code that requires you to bring the entire building up to code. That's structure and all for hurricane resistance. All windows will have to come out. There'll be some major structural integrity improvements to the building. I could think you could run this thing up to $3 or $4 million. And I think our building official here might back me up on that. Thanks.
Very good point. Interestingly enough, the windows are so old that you can't even replace them with equal windows because they don't even make them anymore.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
My name is Timothy L. Craig. I reside at 1865 Southeast 20th Avenue. For identification purposes only, I'm the chairman of the city's tourism committee. I'm the vice chairman of the city's centennial steering committee. I am the treasurer and supervisor for the city's educational facilities benefits district, and I'm the community liaison for the Keysgate Community Association, which houses 10,000 people. I spend a lot of time in this building. Probably not as much as you all, but I spend a lot of time in this building. I certainly don't spend as much time in this building as the staff. I know many members of the staff. Some of them I like to consider my friends. I'd like to commend the city manager for bringing this to fore. I also second my friend and colleague, Mr. T-Bolt's strong assertion that this should have been done perhaps earlier. I don't understand the point of remediating a building that's sick. What is the guarantee once we remediate it, it doesn't stay sick? What is the guarantee that it doesn't get sick again? We've had lots of discussions about raising taxes. I do realize we just passed a budget. However, when it comes to city employees' health and safety, not to mention the city council's health and safety, and the rest of the staff, and the public who comes and uses this building, I don't think it's really a matter of money. I think we should not remediate this building. I think we should build a new building and should get the hell out of here as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
I'm back again. William Tebow, 2835 Fairways Drive. I've been a realtor in town here for 25 years. I've also been a construction manager, built over 150 residential homes, have had to deal with the permitting process from the city and the county, and to remediate this building, as Mr. Barnes so stated, the bill would escalate and escalate and escalate, and I don't think it's a good investment to be putting forward into this building.
Thank you. Any more comments from the public?
Good evening, Nazi Sierra, 2611 Northeast 41st Place, Homestead, Florida. I also agree with the gentleman that just came before me. I think even if we're able to get the building to where we need it to be, just knowing that it has an adequate size, and being able to, as we discussed many years ago, bring all of our departments together under one roof would be the more appropriate use of our funding as taxpayers, as well as the better direction for our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Sullivan, 1860 Southeast 6th Court. Now, they say the building was built in 1959. I don't even know if I was around back then, but I can remember being in this building to a cow meeting. Can't remember the actual month, but it was early in 2005. Might have been April or May. And Councilwoman Waldman said, we have to do something about this building because it's sick. She says, I feel sick when I come in here. That's 2005. What the hell's been going on that we let these employees be in this condition? As far as making a remedial, maybe $2 million repair job, that's pouring money in a hole. Pouring money in a hole. Let's not do that. Let's get the hell out and stay out.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none and seeing none, I'll close the public comment, move them back up to council comments, and Mr. Shelley looks like he's ready to go.
Mayor, I noticed a lot of coughing, too. I don't know.
Mr. Shelley, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Burgess. I think the audience has spoken about all the issues. I mean, to me, the mitigation doesn't make a lot of sense because you're putting over $2 million and more than likely, possibly more than that, into a building that is insufficient to serve its purpose. It doesn't satisfy the needs that we have today with 60,000 residents. I can't think of how many times I've been over here for meetings and needed clarification on an issue and had to wait for someone to drive from another building across town to come over here to join the meeting, to answer the question so that we could move the meeting forward. It's an inefficient way to do government. That's just when I'm meeting, I can't imagine what staff has to go through when they're dealing with these issues as well. So I don't think it makes sense to mitigate this building, especially because, again, you're dealing with just the mold and the asbestos and the radon issues. It doesn't take into account the structural issues that may be present because it's such an old building already. So there's additional things that may need to be replaced, and to me, it just doesn't make sense. So for me, I think that we need to go forward and look at building a new city hall. And I know we can address the issue, I guess, of where to build that next. I mean, my position, I'll go ahead and express it while I have the floor, and that is I think we've had a plan together. We put a lot of money into the ground already as far as the Washington Avenue site. We have plans that are in place, and so I think that it makes sense to go forward and build the city hall in downtown. Now, I want to address one issue that was raised by, I think, one of the residents, and that is this issue of connecting city hall with taxes, because I don't think that anybody up here has any intention that one would have played with the other, because there is monies that I understand that are in an account ready to be built for this city hall. We have $17 million. You have the value of the land that's sitting here as well once it's sold. So I don't think that one should be connected to the other. So I just want to make sure that to kind of catch that before it gets any farther. So I'll limit my comments to that for now.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, in reference to, have you also calculated the cost that would go in in this leasing of a temporary location, if we're looking for let's say if we decide, which obviously we're not, but just to have that cost fixed, what's it going to cost? You got a ballpark figure, an estimate maybe of what's going to cost to move everyone, not only staff time, moving equipment, and also the rental of the location, just to add a number to the, do you have that besides the $2 million that you had already?
It is expensive to lease a space. The biggest expense is going to be the renovation costs, because whether we're in there for a year or 2 or 3 years, the space that we look at requires renovation. I'd prefer not to speak specific numbers today because we have been in dialogue with several landlords, and if I give you a number and then you all nod your head, it undermines the negotiations. I'd be happy to talk to you about it after the meeting.
No problem.
Councilwoman?
We'll say it's expensive, there's no doubt about it.
So I just got, the reason why I bring this point up is besides the $2 million, we also have this cost to take into consideration as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilwoman Walden.
I understand what Councilman Maldonado is saying, but and again, we don't want to get into figures, but I think that some of the spaces we're looking at, all that's going to be figured into the cost as far as making the offices or whatever, correct?
Figure into what cost?
The ground plan.
The ground.
Floor plan inside the building is a large portion of it.
Right.
Yeah, but the truth is, once you make the decision that you have to leave the building, those costs are going to be what they are, whether you fix this building or whether you build a new city hall. The only question then is, how long will you be? Will you be in lease space for a year while you remediate, or 2 to 3 years while you're building a new city hall?
Well, I am not in favor of fixing this building at all. First of all, I don't believe the $2 million, I mean, what's going to happen 5 years from now after it's fixed and then it happens again? So it's an old building. I think we need to make the move. Thank you, Kevin, for remembering that. I forgot that I did that back in 2005, 2006. And I can tell you that around that time, there was clocks built on the carpet in my office, and they pulled the carpet up. And Bill, you and I know the carpet guy. And he told me that floor was solid black mold. And the baseboards went up the wall in carpet. And he pulled that back. And you know and I know that we trust this man. And it was just solid black mold. And was never cleaned. It was just covered up. The carpet that's there right now is sitting right on top of it. So I'm totally against that. I do believe that we should go downtown. That's where you build government buildings in blighted areas. That's where we need to be. And I'm very firm about that. I do believe that this land is worth more than $8 million. Bill, you and I have been in business over 30 years. This land is worth more than that. I would say, bye-bye, like my buddies. People, those are just all things I want you to keep in mind, that I truly believe that the land is worth more than that. This is the most valuable corner we have, this corner right here, US 1 and Campbell Drive, and I know that it'll be in demand when it goes on the market. So thank you very much.
Councilman Williams, do you have anything to say? Councilwoman Fairclough McCormick.
Yes.
No, I don't have anything to say. I've heard everybody.
There you
I've
I feel this building is on life support. And it doesn't make sense to me to spend $2 million to resuscitate it. What needs resuscitation is downtown. So I feel it is in our best interest to build a new city hall downtown in a place that needs resuscitation, that needs life, and it will help to bring about a more vibrant downtown community. We've been talking about for years, from campaign after campaign, we're going to work on the downtown area. Well, this is our opportunity to work on downtown. So I say, let's build City Hall downtown.
And I would echo. I think the $2 million+ could turn out who knows? That's a gentleman that's walking around giving us, in my best guess, giving us his best guesstimate. We could end up, who knows where, if he could even save the building. We may get into it and have to condemn it. And then where are we at? We're back to ground zero on where we go again. So in my thoughts are, you know, and I've walked around Washington Avenue and talked to the store owners down there, and they're waiting on us. So let's go there. They've been waiting patiently, but they can only keep surviving so long without something to help draw people down there. And we are the people that need to go down there and help them have a draw. So I think also, like my colleagues here, that we need to move down to that site downtown. And the sooner the better, in my eyes. I hated when the project got stopped for whatever reason. I was all for it. I mean, we've spent $1 million plus on plans, $6 million plus on getting the land and acquisitions, getting the land ready, and all that, and then it just stopped. To me, that was one of the biggest wastes of money we've ever had in this city. And we need to go down there and improve downtown with our city hall and make it come alive like we've all been promising and trying to do. So I'm all for moving downtown also, and with a new city hall, and saying goodbye to this one, however we have to say goodbye to it. Thank you. Councilman Miller.
Just going back, and as you'd mentioned, you know, when I campaigned, we get out there, you know, there was a big question whether, you know, let's not, you know, are we doing the right thing, don't build City Hall, and so on and so on. And I think what I told the people is what we want to do is just want to make sure that we do our due diligence. We're not saying that what's happening down there is wrong, we just want to make sure, I want to make sure, and we want to bring a report to you that says, let's make sure that we're doing the right thing. And again, we want to thank you for that because, you know, we're seeing the results of good decisions that we made when we came on board. You know, we brought staff in, you're here, you're staff, and you're putting this team together. And now what we're getting time and time again that helps this community make better decisions, and this board make better decisions, these reports that we get. These are the tools that help us make good decisions with a good staff. So again, I want to thank you for that. And, you know, now it's obvious, it's in our face that we can say, you know what, it's okay. We can go forward with this building of downtown City Hall, and we know that it's going to, we've known in the past, we hoped in the past there would bring good things in the downtown area, so I'm all for it as well. There's going to be many businesses and residents that are going to benefit from that. So I would echo this council's saying and moving forward. You know, I think of the money pit, you know, with this building, I think we've all been in that position where, you know, you have it's like an old car, you love it, it has a good sense of it, but, you know, do you really want to pour money into it? And at the end of the day, it's really not worth the money you put into it. So I would agree, let's not put any more money into this building.
And I think
Hey, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so very much. I was able to all of my colleagues and the diet, and I tell you, when I was first elected in 3 years ago, there was an ad hoc committee that convened of distinguished persons in our community and also able staff person. And that committee recommended that we go ahead and build the City Hall. And I was okay with their recommendation. So it's good to hear the colleagues read what has been done. And I'm glad to be in favor of building back to City Hall in downtown for the community. So that is good to hear. So I'm in favor of that, and so thank you so much, Mr. Vice Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
Yes, sir. And I think Councilman Shelley spoke about an important thing is, and Mr. Perez, our finance director, is here and he can verify. We've got over $17 million sitting in a fund that basically is earmarked for this project at this time. Is that correct, sir?
That's $17.9 million, that's correct.
So, I mean, we've got a considerable sum of money sitting there. With the sale of this land, I don't foresee taxes going up any. If anything, we should be able to generate a surplus, we would hope. I mean, I don't want to make a promise there, but we would hope. And secondly, you know, it also spoke up there, as we spoke, when we gave the opportunity to the school to build out here, and we asked them and made them use local vendors. As we move forward, we can help our own community through these tough economic times that are still out there for a lot of different companies, and bring people to the city, local vendors that are here, the electricians, the plumbers, contractors, whoever it is, to work on this project and help our own as we help ourselves. So I would just wanted to bring out the facts that, those two things. Mr. Shelley was first. Hang on 1 minute.
I just had one comment, but also a question as far as direction for staff. Are you looking for, if I make a motion tonight, my motion would be to, I guess, direct you to come back with plans for a city hall downtown? Is that what you're looking for, or would that be where you could take us next?
On the order of decision, and unless I heard you wrong, the decision was, don't fix this building, look at building the new city hall.
Mr. Attorney, should we make a motion on this building first, so it's clear?
Well, it's such a, I feel like there's consensus, but it's such a historic decision that I think you should do it by motion, so that there's a record.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you need a motion both for the mitigation first and then going forth to where to go with City Hall? Do you want to do it in 3, or do you want to do it in 1?
I think you probably could do a motion to build a new city hall downtown, and that would be...
Okay, so that would be my motion to give direction to staff to bring forth plans to build a new city hall in downtown.
Now, just to clarify, when you say build plans, one of the last pieces of this, and I appreciate the decision-making tonight, is we have the existing plans. Do you want to talk process? Do you want to talk about what you mean by do you want to do that tonight, or do you want to do it in another meeting?
Well, that was my comment. That was my follow-up comment, was I wanted, while we had direction, clear direction, I wanted to lock the direction in and say, we're giving you clear direction. And then the next piece would be, do we discuss that tonight or a future meeting? And that's for us to go forward and debate. Because my follow-up question was related to the time frames, and that is, you keep speaking of this 2 to 3 years to build a city hall. Now, if we go with the plans that are already in existence, that we spent $1 million on, and that are essentially shovel-ready, what is the time frame? Do we have an idea of what that time frame would be?
We believe 18 months to 24 months, assuming you make a decision relatively soon to build the current plans. On the other hand, there's at least one entity that approached us about a different structure that involves lease purchase, and so we didn't really discuss in detail with them time frame, but that's certainly information we could get back to you. If you're talking about a complete redesign where you'd like to build a city hall, the city would contract to build a new city hall, but starting from scratch, now we're adding probably 6 months to a year extra on top of that in order to get new plans.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Yes,
I would suggest, because I see consensus on steps 1 and steps 2, and I would suggest that you get that out of the way.
so you want consensus, a motion to do away that we're not going to remediate this building and move back into it?
And to build, that we're going to build a new city hall, and the new city hall is going to be downtown. I see consensus on that, and you fully discussed that. So I would ask for a motion on that, and then you can move to the implementation phase as to how you're going to do that.
Right. And that would be my motion to give the general consensus of to go forward and bring forth a plan to build a city hall downtown, and then we'll see whether the discussion goes forward. We may have a follow-up motion with additional direction.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Okay. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Can we have a final comment?
I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm getting a little confused because we're talking about so many different things, but because we were talking about the money that we have set aside, just want to make it very clear that when we went out for bid before, it was at the height of the market. So I think when we go out for bid again, that those bids will come in lower. That's my prediction anyway, that they will come in lower. And so I just want that to be on the record, because to me that's very important.
I just don't want to create an expectation one way or the other, because I don't really have any idea.
Of course, but I mean, just from what I see and people I know who are in real estate in this audience, I do believe that it will, or it should come in lower, let's put it like that. Bill wants to say something. I don't know if we had public comments.
Hold on, no, public comment's been closed.
Has it been closed?
Yes.
Okay, so with that being said, then I'm okay with the vote.
Richard, can I open public comment back up? No. Okay. Any last comments from the council members? Mr. Thiebaud, if you'd like to say something, please come to the podium. I just had to get you while you're halfway up, you know.
There goes Councilman.
Okay, Bill Tebow again, 2835 Fairways Drive. Just wanted to mention that you already have a set of plans, and to go out and even entertain other options in spending an additional million for plans. The contractors have a set of plans, they can all rebid, and that's where you get your lower bid, because there's an existing set of plans to work from. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is why I didn't want to open up a public comment. Go ahead. I have to respond. Robert Barnes. But Robert, right now, we're just talking about moving it down there. We're not talking about the next step. That's how we open back up. Yeah, we're going to open that back up in a minute. So if you would, I know where your comments are going. If you'll wait 1 minute, they'll be more appropriate to the next motion, perhaps. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Woolman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough McCormick?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
The motion carries.
What I need next is a general consensus from the panel here, if they want to move forward with discussions tonight about what we're going to do with that site down there, or do you want to wait? I prefer that we move on tonight, since we have so many people here that want to voice their opinions about it, and we've got the majority of council here tonight. Is that agreed? Yes.
I've no problem talking about it, but to make a decision like that tonight, I haven't even
No,
looked.
okay, we don't have to make a decision. Let's see if we can give him some direction on which way we would like him to go then, I guess.
Well, I mean, I was just handed something here tonight, an overview, and I haven't even looked at it yet. So, but I know we have a set of plans, and I know that we're ready to go, but at the same time, just to be fair, I think we need a little more time on that. I think we've made some major decisions tonight, don't you? Major decisions tonight. But I don't mind talking about it, and I think the point's been made clearly, but I haven't heard Robert's rebuttal.
My suggestions are, and if we second it or not, is, one, we had the manager come to us with some ideas about the plans that are there. Are they still current? Are they good to go? Do we need to change them any or whatever? Also, reach out to the different groups that are in town with their ideas of private-public partnerships and whatever, and then as soon as possible, because we need to get this process going.
Right, so one decision would be to say, yes, we want a process, come back to us with options to consider. So
Come back with the best options for this community as a whole of what we're going to do down there. Is it going to, give us the choice if we stay with what have drawn up 6 years ago or whatever the number was, with the other groups that want to come out and make their presentations to us, and we do that, and we give everybody a fair chance. We advertise it any way it needs to be advertised, and open it up, and make it
I can agree with that.
an educational and competitive evening.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not ready to make a decision on which plan to choose tonight because I wasn't part of the process back when the original plan was made. I've not seen the original plan specifically, so I would like to be briefed on that. I'd like to have a chance to ask questions about that. So I am uncomfortable picking a plan tonight. However, I don't know, the only concern I have about coming back and creating a process already is, again, I don't want to have this thing balloon out of control, and I don't want to have it take a lot of extra time either. So I think part of it for me is I'd like to be briefed on what the current plan is as far as the architectural design and get the more details of it, because I have an overview of what it is, but I would like to be more specific. And then I can make a decision on whether I like that plan or don't like that plan, and then maybe have an idea of what other plans are out there. And then after hearing what other plans might exist, then we could direct it for a process, because I think that's a faster way than to go ahead and do the process, and then you have to wait here so many days, you get all these different plans, you have to evaluate it. And we may decide we already like the plan that's already there, and that we could go straight to the chase. But I would like to know what plan we currently have, as well as what other options are already out there, because I do know there's a couple other groups that have some plans as well that I've seen and heard about and I do like. And then from that information, we should be able to make a decision on the current plan, or then put it out for process and go from there. So that would be my suggestion.
Mr. Maldonado.
Just a question to the manager. How much time, I mean, I think we want to give you a sense of direction of, let's say, we have groups that are interested or want to participate, this community wants to participate in this historic decision, and how much time do you feel like you're going to need to kind of make this decision? We know that we don't want too much time, month, 2 months, 3 months.
Well, if it's the will of the council, probably the quickest option here would be to schedule a meeting where the original architect comes in, presents what the plans were, the original 2009 plans. The other parties who have interest make a presentation of their own, and anybody else that says they have an interest in at least getting your ear, we could arrange that as soon as everybody's available, and that could be fairly soon.
Okay. So, yeah, I would like that to happen, you know, so that we give that direction to the city manager.
Do we want to set a date tonight while we're here?
The calendars are in front of us, and if you need that.
The only thing that's out of my control is the architects from the original plan and when they might be available.
We
so-
can set a date, and if he's available, we'll move forward with the meeting. That way, we have a meeting set, and everybody knows it's set. And if he's not available, then...
I'll call you back with another.
And I'm sure there's somebody from his office that will be available. Anybody want to pick a date?
I would just like for it to be as soon as possible, because time is of the essence.
Madam, how about October the 2nd? No. October 3rd, excuse me. Wednesday, October 3rd.
I gotta find Anna.
I want to,
I think it's good. Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good October 3rd.
I'm just trying to keep the process moving and not let it bog down, and
Right.
I know you're going to have your hands full with getting things organized for here, but I'd like to keep the process moving.
And Vice Mayor, maybe we could say October, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe October 4th, if it's in the 5:30 or after as a second alternative, so that the process doesn't stop if one doesn't work. That would have to depend on everybody's calendar, but
I'm good.
I'm good for those days.
6 o'clock.
6 would be better.
3rd or 4th?
Councilman Williams, are you okay with October 3rd or 4th?
Yes, I am. Yes, of course I am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shelley?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Okay, so if you could set one of those, see if one of those dates will work with the parties that are interested in doing something. Mr. Barnes, did you have a comment? Okay. Anything else needed, Mr. Attorney? Any other comments from the council?
Did we go through pretty much all the issues
Well,
to
we've
consider?
got a roll call. We got a vote on this last motion.
I'm glad you're keeping track of all of this.
We have one more vote, correct? Oh, no, we're done.
The direction is fine, and I can't thank you enough for
We're good.
time. It's a good decision that you made.
Robert, so you vote aye. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion. Motion, second, meeting's adjourned at 7 o'clock.